into groups that are the same?
Has Christian mastered multiple classification? The answer depends on what theory of development one ascribes to. According to the theories of Lev Vygotsky, we cannot evaluate the classified behavior of Christian using just the level of her independent performance, or from seeing how she uses help. Knowing both is necessary for a correct evaluation. Hello, I'm Elena Bodrova. I have worked in the Institute of Preschool Education in Moscow under Alexander Zaporozhets, who was a student of Lev Vygotsky, and I am currently teaching at the Metropolitan State College of Denver. Here is my colleague, Deborah Leong. She is also teaching here, and we have a pleasure of introducing you to a great theorist whose work we found very useful for developmental psychology and early childhood education. Lev Vygotsky was born about 100 years ago in 1896 in Tsarist Russia. He grew up in Gomel, a mid-sized city that is in what is now the independent nation of Belarus, about 400 miles west of Moscow. As Jews, the Vygotsky family, however prosperous, were outsiders in Russia under Tsar Nicholas. There were strict laws on what job Jews could hold, what regions of the country they could live in, and limits on how many could be formally educated. The odds were great, but miraculously Vygotsky gained a place. Almost immediately, he changed his major from medicine to law, graduating just as the First World War was ending and the Russian Revolution changed all institutions and expectations. Vygotsky returned to Gomel and taught. Initially, he taught literature in a secondary school, and after a few years, taught teacher education in the local training institution. Thus, he had much practical experience in the field of education. He also became interested in psychology and began doing research in this field. He moved to Moscow and entered the heady intellectual life of the pre-Stalin era of the communist experiment. It was a time of relative openness for academic freedom. During the almost frenzied last decade of his life, Vygotsky worked in a wide range of arenas. He worked with displaced refugees, with physically and mentally handicapped people, in scientific institutes and universities. He also managed to write 7 books and dozens of articles before dying at age 37 in 1934. In 1936, psychology became politicized, and only certain psychologists were approved by Stalin regime. And it was not until 1960s that the thaw in political influences on academic life occurred after the death of Stalin. Vygotsky's ideas resurfaced in Russia, and his commentaries on Piaget were published in the West. It was then that my professors became able to explore and elaborate the ideas of Vygotsky. And with glasnost of late 1980s, Vygotsky's ideas became increasingly popular in the United States. We will use examples from 3 classrooms in this film, a Head Start and 2 multi-age primary classrooms. In Russia, I worked for 12 years in early childhood education using Vygotskyan ideas, and the last 2 years, Deborah Leong and I worked in Colorado with early childhood teachers to implement this approach.
In numerous workshops, lectures, and in our book, we have distilled the essence of Vygotsky's theory of learning and development into 4 major ideas, which we will present in this film. These form only the skeleton of his work, but understanding them will enable you to read his work and that of his associates more easily. They are: children construct knowledge, learning can lead development, development cannot be separated from its social context, language plays a central role in mental development. These ideas are all interconnected and build upon each other But in this introductory program, we will discuss them one by one.